Hi, I'm Anna, and on this week's Saturday Adventure, we're going in search of America's biggest legend. These days, everyone knows Bigfoot. America's hairy ape man is so ingrained in society that this cryptid is instantly recognizable to just about anyone. Bigfoot has been the subject of music and movies, graced countless television programs and documentaries, even sold beef jerky and mattresses. The Loch Ness Monster seems like an unknown compared to the Sasquatch. The Bigfoot has been spotted across North America, and the population may even be comprised of several distinct subspecies. Stories of giant wildmen allegedly date back to pre-Columbian times, and Native American artwork does suggest that ape-like creatures were being spotted at a time that man was supposed to be the only great apes to set foot in the Americas. While no fossil evidence of great apes in America has ever been discovered, we know that there was a Bigfoot-sized ape living in China at the same time humans were crossing the Bering Strait. Two species of Gigantopithecus are known from a handful of teeth and broken bits of jawbone, of which very little was discovered in situ. The samples suggest that these animals were closely related to orangutans, but they do not reveal if the animal was quadrupedal like orangs and chimps or bipedal like a man. Whether Bigfoot is ape or man, my dream since third grade has been to give him a skritch under the chin. It turns out I didn't have far to go to find him. Some people are surprised by the notion of more than one Bigfoot, but as a researcher, I know that most animals on our planet don't have a population of one. One single Bigfoot is not responsible for thousands and thousands of tracks, sightings, encounters, hairs, scents, hoots, howls, and knocks across the nation. Many experts have a variety of population estimates with varying levels of credibility, but I think it's safe to say that several thousand animals must be there to account for such a swath of sightings across North America. It turns out that my home state of New York is one of the hottest spots around. I may live in Queens, but I'm an upstate girl for life. Stories persist through the Catskills and central New York, and the Hudson Valley is a hub for weirdness across the whole Northeast. One famous series of sightings near Beacon turned out to be a hoax perpetrated by the teenage son of street art icon Ron English. I love it when all my worlds collide. If anywhere in New York could hide a Bigfoot, it's the Adirondacks. The area is already home to moose, bears, coyotes, and other large animals that are seen infrequently. An intelligent ape that was actively seeking to avoid contact with man could easily slip into a ravine, cave, or copse of trees in this thick forest land. A very important sighting happened in 1976 on the expansive Adirondack Park. 10 witnesses, including several state troopers, saw an 8-foot hairy man with red eyes in the woods around A Bear Road near the town of Whitehall. Even now, the area is barely developed, with the hungry forest looming at the edge of the farmland. Whitehall is proud to be a part of Bigfoot history and commemorates every year with a festival and Sasquatch calling contest. Sasquatch enthusiasts from all over descend on this tiny village at the tip of Lake Champlain. This was surely the best place to begin my quest to skritch a Bigfoot. I checked every Bigfoot to make sure it was a fan in a costume and not the real deal using this opportunity to sneak in for some swamp dogs. This party was so hot, even the Yeti showed up. Vendor tables were packed with replica casts, books, movies, and an array of handmade Bigfoot-themed arts and crafts. Among them, I found exactly what I needed. The little old man that sold it to me assured me this map would lead me to the very heart of Sasquatch country. As I was leaving Whitehall, I had one more encounter to investigate. Rumors told of a 1,000-pound Sasquatch that enjoyed waving at cars from a parking lot outside of town, so I headed over to see for myself. This sculpture was created by Stephen Mestian Sr. to stand in front of the Vermont Marble, Granite, Slate, and Soapstone Company. The sculpture was accompanied by a cute tennis racket-wielding infant. It turns out this Sasquatch is a mom. Or maybe a dad, it's hard to tell. With map in hand, it was time to do some serious research. My next stop was to Portland, Maine, for a visit to the International Cryptozoology Museum. The museum was created with pieces from the personal collection of Loren Coleman, the world's foremost authority on cryptozoology. Coleman is responsible for naming such phenomena as the Dover Demon and the Montauk Monster. His collection includes examples from many famous cryptid encounters, but Bigfoot is the centerpiece of this cryptozoology display. A wooden Bigfoot guards the front door, while a friendlier and fuzzier version, known as the Colcani Sasquatch, poses with explorers on the inside. There are also tracks and evidence collected from across the country through Coleman's research. New England is prime Bigfoot territory, with numerous sightings throughout Maine, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts. The notorious Bridgewater Triangle, 30 minutes south of Boston, is home not only to hairy giants, but also to little hairy people known as the Pukwudgies. I picked Loren's brain on the tracks in biology. Before I left, Loren confirmed that my map of Sasquatch country looked authentic. That meant I had to go to California. As tempting as it was to hop on the next plane, my research was not yet complete. I would get there, but I needed to get there by way of Georgia. Most casual cryptozoologists will be aware of the smaller, more athletic swamp ape that ranges from Louisiana to Florida, but may be surprised to know that the more traditional Bigfoot is plentiful in the South as well. I knew I was onto something good as soon as I set foot in Blue Ridge. This is the home of Expedition Bigfoot, which boasts the most Bigfoot per square inch of any other museum. This was certainly the most tracks I'd ever seen in one place. Tracks of giant feet, large feet, broken feet, hands, thighs, even a butt. A Yeti track or two worked their way in beside them. While the modern Bigfoot craze has made this monster a household name, the legend goes back hundreds of years. Native American languages give dozens of names for the hairy giants that lived in secret places beyond the rim of society. US President Teddy Roosevelt even wrote a story about a trapper whose partner is killed by a giant hairy man while exploring virgin forest. Americans were hungry for wild men after the expeditions of Tom Slick brought worldwide attention to the Yeti in Nepal. Researchers descended on Northern California to investigate stories from loggers and miners about apes in the mountains. One of those miners was Fred Beck. This region near Mount St. Helens still bears the name it received after the attack at Ape Canyon. The miners had been finding giant tracks for some time. They occasionally glimpsed the ape men, but there was no conflict until the miners fired first. Several versions of the story exist. Contemporary newspapers say the battle came after Beck shot one of the creatures. The newspaper accounts of the battle are quite fantastic, with great boulders raining down, walls shaking from body impacts, and holes being torn in the roof. Some versions have Beck targeted directly and even knocked unconscious with a rock, but he says these are embellished half-truths of the real story. According to Beck's version, which was written down by his son more than 40 years later, there weren't even boulders near the cabin that the creatures could have used as weapons. The men did fire between the gaps of the logs in their cabin, and the doors did have to be braced against the ape men. The most exciting event was when a creature put its arm through a gap and took hold of a wood-cutting axe. The miners were able to turn the head of the axe to prevent it from getting pulled outside. The miners did not shoot directly at them, and even passed up shots that could have killed one of the creatures. Only when they started climbing on the roof of the cabin and were dropping small rocks down the chimney did the miners begin shooting directly at their attackers. The attack ended before dawn, and the miners abandoned their cabin and gear with the exception of their guns. It was then that Beck saw one of the creatures standing at the edge of a cliff. He shot the creature 3 times from 80 yards and watched its body tumble more than 400 feet into the canyon below. Rangers later investigating the site found small stones scattered around the area, but couldn't confirm who put them there. No trace of the body was ever discovered. By custom, the Siatko do not leave their dead behind. I showed my map to David and Melinda Bacara, owners of Expedition Bigfoot, and they told me that if it worked, they'd be willing to include this important artifact in the museum one day. David even gave me a sneak peek at the largest track in his collection, which was so new, it was not even on display yet.